The Santa we recognize today, the round belly, the snowy beard, the list. The North Pole wasn't born in the North Pole at all, he was drawn. Slowly, repeatedly by one man, and his pencil reshaped Christmas forever. Before the 19th century, Santa Claus wasn't one character. He was a blur of old-world traditions. Half saint, half folklore, half winter spirit. Medieval Europeans worshipped Saint Nicholas, the Bishop of Myra, famed for secret gift-giving. The Dutch brought Sinterklaas to America, tall, thin, carrying a book of names, and riding a white horse over rooftops. And in 1823, Clement Clarke Moore's poem, A Visit from St. Nicholas, added even more ingredients: tiny reindeer, a magical sleigh, and a mysterious elf who slid down chimneys with toys. But none of these Santas were consistent. Some were stern, some were saintly, some were a little frightening. Then came the Civil War, then came the newspapers, and then came the man whose drawings would freeze Santa in time. It was the 1860s. America was fractured, grieving, and painfully uncertain about its future. Into that world stepped Thomas Nast, a young German immigrant illustrator working for Harper's Weekly, one of the most influential newspapers in the country. Nast was known for political cartoons, biting satire, and sharp portraits of public figures. But during the winter of 1862, Harper's Weekly asked him to illustrate a Christmas scene for soldiers. Something comforting, something hopeful. Nast didn't draw a saint. He didn't draw a bishop. He didn't draw a thin Dutchman in a long coat. He drew a round, joyful, grandfatherly Santa, wrapped in fur, handing out gifts to Union soldiers. This was the birth of modern Santa, not a relic of Europe, not a poem's vague description, but a distinctly American figure, gentle, warm, and deeply human. Nast returned to him year after year, expanding the myth like chapters in an illustrated novel. Between 1863 and 1886, Nast created more than 30 Santa Claus illustrations, each adding a new detail, a new piece of the mythology. These were published in Harper's Weekly, whose pages reached hundreds of thousands of households. What Nast created became law. Here's what he added: the North Pole. Before Nast, Santa lived in many places: Germany, Turkey, the Netherlands. But Nast wanted Santa to feel neutral during the Civil War, a figure beyond politics. So he placed Santa's home in the North Pole, far from national borders. This gave Santa global reach and eternal mystery. The workshop Nast's drawings show Santa surrounded by toys, gears, tools, little wooden horses, and doll heads. This implied he wasn't a saint distributing miracles, he was a craftsman. He made Christmas. The elves' early European lore had helper spirits, but Nast drew them as small, cheerful toy makers, establishing the elves we still imagine. The Naughty or Nice list in one iconic 1881 illustration. Santa studies a massive book labeled Good Boys and Girls and Bad Boys and Girls. This ledger became a central part of the holiday's moral storytelling. Santa's body. Nast made Santa round, jolly, bearded, rosy-cheeked, wrapped in fur-trimmed winter clothes. Earlier Santas ranged from frightening to skeletal to monk-like. Nast unified him into one comforting image. The red suit. A myth says Coca-Cola made Santa red, but Nast drew Santa in red variations decades earlier, along with brown, tan, and green suits. Nast didn't standardize the color, but he normalized the jolly red accented figure. His 1881 masterpiece, Merry Old Santa Claus, remains the most iconic early image. In the late 19th century, newspapers were the internet. Illustrations were content. Images traveled faster than stories, and hit harder. Nast's Santas weren't just pictures, they were culture-setting devices. Families used them as reference. This is what Santa looks like. Stores copied them in window displays. Card makers traced them. Magazines reprinted them. An entire commercial ecosystem blossomed around Nast's drawings. Decades before department stores like Macy's built Santa into a marketing engine, Nast had unknowingly created the first viral character of American pop culture. If you flip through an original Harper's Weekly brittle pages, ink fading, you see Nast's Santa evolve panel by panel. You see the birth of Santa writing letters, Santa studying maps, Santa traveling the globe, Santa speaking to children, Santa reviewing toy inventories. Collectors today track down these prints like treasure. Early postcards, lithographs, and advertisements show dozens of Santa variants. Skinny, tall, stern, but Nast's version overshadows them all. His Santa wasn't just an image. He was a character with a world, a North Pole, a workshop, a workforce, a map, a mission, a home. He turned myth into narrative, narrative into tradition. By the 1880s, Nast's Santa had become so familiar that people forgot he had ever been anything else. He represented family warmth, post-war healing, generosity, optimism, national unity, and most importantly, he represented Christmas as a shared cultural story. Even as commercial Santa grew, department stores, mail-order catalogs, postcard industries, Nast's DNA stayed intact. His Santa is still everywhere: mall Santas, storybooks, Christmas branding, wrapping paper, animations, emoji, modern films. Every red-cheeked Santa today carries a trace of Thomas Nast's hand. Modern creators have revived the Nast style, thick ink lines, cross-hatching, Victorian shadows, a fun twist for your audience. Design your own Nast-era Santa sticker. Use sepia tones, engraver-style textures, old paper backgrounds, Victorian fonts. It connects new generations to the roots of holiday illustration. Nast never set out to become the father of Santa Claus. He was just an artist drawing warmth during America's darkest winters. But sometimes, that's where myths are born. Not in grand legends, but in quiet illustrations meant to comfort people who needed hope. Year after year, Nast returned to Santa, and, year after year, America returned to him. The Santa we know wasn't discovered. He was drawn, line by line, page by page, until he stepped out of the newspaper and into Christmas forever.